Hey everyone, Kevin here, and I get it. By now, you are probably sick and tired of hearing this word AI.
Generative AI, generative AI.
But get ready because we are going to get rid of the hype of AI and actually put it down to business on how we can implement artificial intelligence into building smarter business applications today using Appsmith AI. I'd like you to imagine being able to automate a big portion of your company's day-to-day tasks, streamline data analysis and enhance decision-making processes with just a few clicks. That will be awesome, right? But for most of the companies, making this happen requires a lot of effort, time, and eventually money. What if I told you that integrating AI into your business applications could save countless hours and dramatically improve efficiency? It sounds too good to be true, but with Appsmith, the best low-code enterprise open source platform, this is now a reality. You might be wondering, where would I use these AI features or under what circumstances? In virtually any internal business applications, from customer service to data analysis, automation, and beyond. Whenever you need to improve processes, require minor efforts, or do something to speed up decision making or go to market without sacrificing controlling quality, that's where AI is going to help you. It's likely that right now you go throughout a lot of manual efforts, time-consuming processes without the aid of advanced AI capabilities. These AI features will save you time by automating repetitive tasks and improving intelligent assistance. They will reduce errors by leveraging machine learning modules for accurate prediction and analysis. And they will improve your effectiveness by providing valuable insights and supporting better decision making. Ultimately, these AI features will make your life easier by taking care of heavy lifting, allowing you to focus on more strategic and high-impact tasks. So today's sessions are, first of all, integrating OpenAI so you can enhance your applications with advanced language models, leveraging Google Gemini so you can unlock the power of conversational AI, harness Anthropic Claude so you can benefit from cutting-edge AI capabilities, and more importantly, unleash Appsmith AI so you can streamline text generation, classification, image analysis, and much more. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here I am at Appsmith and I'm going to start with a blank application. There's nothing in this application, and actually we're going to tackle OpenAI, Google Gemini, and Anthropic on this sample application, and then we'll jump to Appsmith AI. Integrating these services are extremely simple. Once you are in your Appsmith app, go to the data section on the left and then you will see how to bring your data. Click on the button and there you will see all of the different options that we support for multiple data sources like databases, APIs, services, and so much more. At the very end of the page, you will see the AI integrations. There we have Anthropic, Appsmith AI, Google Gemini or Google AI, and OpenAI. Let's start with OpenAI. Once you select it, you will be prompted with the API key. You can get your API key directly from the platform.openai.com, and there you will get your API key. Once you have your API key, you will paste it in this field right here, test the configuration to make sure it works, and you will give it a name. In this case, I'm going to call it OpenAI and save this data source. Now, once we do that, we can start working on the editor creating a query for this specific data source. So we'll create a new query, select OpenAI, and here we have some different settings that we have to set up for this query. The first thing is going to be the name. I'm going to call it OpenAI Expert. And here you can define which command you want to use. It's going to be chat for a conversational type of OpenAI assistance, embeddings, and vision For now, we'll use chat to keep it simple, but in our YouTube channel, you will see some other options regarding the other commands. Then the model, depending on your account and the API key level, you might have ChatGPT 3.5 or even ChatGPT 4 and some others, again, depending on your API secret access. For now, I'm just going to pick GPT 3.5 Turbo. Then the maximum number of tokens to generate in the chat competition, I'm going to keep it to 256. And then you have the messages here where you're going to send the messages to OpenAI. Depending on the type of conversation you set up, you might need to send back the entire conversation for context. And you can do that by sending multiple messages, by adding multiple messages in here. Or you can use JavaScript and just pass an array of messages, being role user or system, and the actual content on the conversation. And that way you can pass along context to your OpenAI chat so it understands what you're talking about. But for now, we're not going to use the JavaScript toggle. Actually, let me delete this and just use the standard support messages here. And for the message, I'm going to be just pasting something hard-coded for now, telling you're a marketing expert and you're given the following question, and then I'm going to be passing the question. For now, it's hard-coded so we can test it out. And last but not least, the temperature, where between 0 and 2 higher values will make the output more random, and lower values will make it more focused and deterministic. I'm going to keep it to 0 because I want it to be really focused and deterministic. And once you run it, you will see the response for this specific query. There you go, we have some information. Let me make this bigger. And then you're going to get an array of choices. And inside that array of choices, you will have a set of messages and the content. This is the actual response from ChatGPT 3.5 using OpenAI. So there you go. That was extremely simple, right? We'll integrate this into the UI in just a few minutes, but let's give it a shot to other services we support. Let's go back to the data section and actually integrate a new system. And this is going to be Google Gemini, or what we used to be called OpenAI. Again, you can get the API secret from what you used to call the Merker Suite, but now the name is aistudio.google.com. And there you will create a new API key with your Google account, and you will copy that, put it here in the API key field. Again, test the configuration, put in a name, and save it. I'm going to call it Gemini and save. And now let's do the same. Let's actually create a new query against the Gemini that we just created, and we're going to ask pretty much the same. The command right now only available is generate content, and in my case, since my account have access to the Gemini Pro model, I will choose Gemini Pro, but if not, you will probably see just Gemini. And the structure is pretty much the same. You will just pass an array of messages using JavaScript or just add messages manually. You have the role user, type text, the only thing we support right now, and then the actual content. Again, I'm going to ask for the same. You are a marketing expert and you're given the following question, and let's run it. And again, this is going to go to Google Gemini, ask for the question, and retrieve an answer for us. The structure might be a bit different from the OpenAI, so make sure to always check the structure of the response whenever you need to bind this to a specific UI element. In this case, we have a candidates array, and then you have the content and then some parts. And as you can see, here is the response. This is what we can then print out into the UI, and then you can see other information about why it is stopped, what type of category the conversation had, if it was explicit, or what type of harassment had, or speech, etc. All of this metadata is really important and can be used for different type of systems. For example, if you're using data warehousing or things like that. But there you go. We have Gemini working. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call it Gemini Expert. And now, last but not least, let's do the same with Anthropic. And Anthropic model is called Claude. So let's click on that specific option, and then we're going to grab the API key. That API key we can grab from console.anthropic.com. Again, logging in with your Anthropic account, you will get your API key, copy it, and put it here in Appsmith. As usual, test the configuration to make sure everything works as expected. And let's give it a name. I'm going to call it Anthropic. Actually, I'm going to call it Claude. And save. And now let's do the same. Let's create a new query against the Claude data source we just created. This one we're going to call it Claude Expert. Command is going to be chat, the type of model. I have access to Claude 2 and 2.1. Claude 3 is now available, but in my account, my API key doesn't have access to that model. Then we define the maximum number of tokens. I'm going to keep it to 256, but you can increase it to get a longer chat completion. And the same messages, you can send them manually or just pass an array of conversations in the form of messages. But I'm going to ask the same question that we have been asking. Temperature, I'm going to actually put it to 0. So it is more analytical and not so creative. Actually, let's put it to 0.5 because we're asking question about marketing. And there you go. Now we have an answer. Again, make sure to take a look at the structure of the response. In this case is more plain, is more just in a JavaScript, JSON object, and there's the answer from Claude. So how do we integrate this into the UI? Actually, I have a sample UI ready for you so we can start binding and showcasing this information and integrating with labels and buttons, etc. In this UI that I have here is super simple. All I have is a title, ask the marketing experts, and input text with the name question, and then 3 containers. One is going to be for the answer from OpenAI, the other one from Google Gemini, and the other one from Anthropic. And here I have 3 text fields. One is for OpenAI with the name OpenAI, the other one Gemini, and the other one Claude. And all of these are actually pulling the data from the response. Remember, for the OpenAI, we named it OpenAI Expert, and it's accessing the response structure to actually read just the final message, which is the content. Remember that each of the different queries have different response structures. Well, you have to make sure that you read the data depending on the structure of the response. For OpenAI is that data, that choices, which is an array, that message, that content. For Gemini is Gemini, the name of the query, which is Gemini Expert, that data, that candidates, which is an array, that content, that parse, that text. But again, you can see that in the query response when you run it. So it's very easy to understand. And also you can use the Appsmith auto completion, which is an amazing tool. So I'm just reading the answers from the 3 different providers, and the idea of this app is that I'm going to be asking a question and getting answers from the 3 different providers so I can compare and use the one that I want to use. Now, how do I execute the 3 queries all at once? Very simple. We can create multiple chain events here. For example, executing all of the queries. First of all, the OpenAI, then the Gemini, then the Claude. But actually, let's make something even simpler. Let's create a new JavaScript object. And in this JavaScript object, all I'm going to do is just have a very simple function called ask the expert. And I'm going to call OpenAI by executing OpenAI expert.run. This is the name of the query. The same with Gemini. Remember, we called it Gemini expert.run and Claude expert.run. Now, the last thing we gotta do is change the structure of these queries so it reads the data from the question that the people are gonna ask. So all we have to do is go back to the queries, in this case OpenAI query, and make sure that on the content actually remove the hard-coded value and bind it to the UI question. Remember that the name of that field is question. All we have to do is find question.text. So we're going to be telling you are a marketing expert and you are given the following question, and then the question that people are going to ask in the UI. Same with Gemini, we're going to be changing the content so it's binding from question.text, and the same with Claude. Question.text. And now go to the onClick and just find the function we just created. Remember the name, ask the expert. There you go. Now we deploy. And once we deploy, we can ask our questions. In this case, the same question that I was asking hard-coded. And then when you click ask the expert, what's going to happen is this is going to trigger there you go. When you click the Ask the Expert, it's going to happen is going to trigger the request to each of the services, which reads the question from this field here, and is going to give us the response from the specific question we're asking. And as you can see, the answers are very different between each provider. OpenAI gives me more like a bullet list of ideas for my next product launch. Google Gemini gives me something very interesting. Again, it's inviting to do an influencer outreach. In this one is making community engagement, which I don't see that as an option or as a recommendation with OpenAI. Launch day promotion, post-launch production, pre-launch production. That's good. It's giving me some advices on how to do measurement and optimization and additional tips. Looks like the Gemini one is more complete. And Anthropic is giving me a set of good advices. But there you go. That's how easy you can integrate OpenAI, Google Gemini, and Anthropic Claude into your systems. But if you're looking for something even simpler without to handle API keys, secrets, or worrying about your services, you can use Appsmith AI, which is a complete managed service that we'll explore right now. Now, let's think about a more oriented business use case. Being able to integrate OpenAI or Google Gemini for generating text is great, but this won't be the case for most enterprises, which will have their own standard operating procedures, their own custom ways to extract and manipulate data, and probably require large language models to be trained against these requirements. So let's review how Appsmith AI can facilitate this by providing a managed service with a lot of customization. First, let's review this application, which is a very standard tool that manages loan requests. This application has multiple information about each of the loan requests. The lending company spends a lot of time and manual processes analyzing each of the requests for basic information about the credit score, the DTI, income details, and finance analysis. What if we could speed up this process by having AI to analyze each request and give recommendations based on the standard operating procedure given by your company? Well, we can easily do that. First of all, here we have the document, which has information about how do we control the pre-qualification process internally in the company, the loan application procedure, the application processing procedure, how is the underwriting happening, the credit decision, quality check, loan funding, and so much more. Basically, this document dictates how to analyze each of the requests and analyze if that person actually can be approved to receive that loan or not. So we can make Appsmith AI to analyze all this information and use it as a context, being trained on this data to actually give answers to real business use cases. So let's actually look at the application. The first thing is if we go to data and we create a new data source, you will find the Appsmith AI data source. And it's not required, but when you create a new Appsmith data source, you can upload multiple files. That will be the documents which Appsmith AI will be training your custom module to then being able to answer or analyze and give labels and information or what have you related to the information you have trained your model. So let's upload the file and find our standard operating procedure document, and that's it. As you can see now, we can just save our data source and we'll be able to start creating queries to Appsmith AI against this specific document. So if we go back to our editor, I already have this data source created, so that's why I'm not going to create a new one. We will see information about each of the applicants. And as you can see, when we click, we see some information about who the applicant is, the application ID, the status, the DTA ratio, the credit score, and more information about the person applying for the loan. And then AI is going to create a recommendation based upon the information we got from the person who's applying for the loan and the SOP document. Automatically is going to give us a recommendation, and for this particular case is telling us we recommend you to reject, and here is the reason. While the credit score of 680 falls into the fair category, which is below the minimum requirement for approval set for 6090. Then the debt income ratio is 0.45, which is above the acceptable range of 30% to 43%, which indicates a higher financial burden and might lead to rejection. And Appsmith AI will give more information about why it's recommending to reject this application. Now, obviously, the person reviewing it will make sure that the recommendation makes sense, but this by itself is speeding up the application process by far. So now when we deploy this, we'll be able to see how it works. But before we do that, let me take you to the query so you can see how this is. Once you are in the query section, you can create a new query and select the data source that you have trained with the document that you created. Now I already have that created, and you can see that here is the loan decision Appsmith AI, and it's going to be using the generate text action, and the prompt is going to be you're a helpful assistant who can help with loan agents and loan approvals. And as you can see, we are passing information about the loan details, and we are getting that from the table of the request. We're passing the selected row on the table, credit score, the TTA ratio, the income, the loan purpose, and the requested amount. And with that, we're going to also be passing the context from the files we uploaded. And as you can see here, we will have a drop down with all of the files we have trained Appsmith AI about our information. So here we can select multiple files, but in this case, we just have one, which is the SOP document. And then when we trigger this loan decision, Appsmith AI is going to analyze the request using the document pre-trained that we uploaded to give the final answer. Now this is amazing, and all we have to do is with a very simple JavaScript function, which is going to be calling all of the loans that we have from our database. That's completely outside of Appsmith AI. It's just a database pulling the requests, and then the loan decision we're going to be running is going to analyze all the requests from the table and give a Appsmith AI recommendation. So that's why when we deploy this app, automatically, when we click on any of the requests on the table on the left, Appsmith AI is going to be triggered and is going to give a recommendation based upon this applicant. So for this one, John Doe, the loan amount request, the DTA ratio, and everything that we see is recommending that we approved it. But if we see other one, maybe we will see a very different purpose. It's also taking into account the type of loan purpose. It's not the same analyzing a car purchase to a home or a house loan. So all of that Appsmith AI is analyzing against the document we uploaded and the request we're making. And for this particular case, it's saying you should reject it because all of these reasons. So here we see an actual business-oriented Appsmith AI use case, speeding up the go-to-market time efficiency of your teams. So that's one example that I wanted to show you. Another one is about image extraction. Now, let me explain this to you because this is super powerful and it takes just a couple of queries in Appsmith AI. What if you could extract data from images and inject that information into your forms, tables, databases, data warehousing, etc.? For example, this could speed up a request loan like the one we just have in our database. Just having the formulary in a picture where we can extract all the information from there and actually create a new request loan without having to manipulate all the data manually. So in this case, what I have is just an image picker. I'm going to select an image, and in this image, what I have is a driver license. This driver license has information about me, and maybe I'm making a request about maybe a car loan or something like that. Once I upload my image, I can ask what type of entities I want to extract for this image. So I can ask, for example, the name, date of the birth, gender, license number, height, and whatever other information, for example, the eye colors, institute, what have you. And then after that happens, I can also give some additional information. For example, I want the date to be in certain format, or the name to be camel case, or whatever other instructions we want to give. And then when we click extract, Appsmith AI is going to kick in using the image classification and image analysis service, which you don't need to train or anything. It's going to automatically use the entities you want to extract and give us a response. And here down below we have the response. You can see that it's abstracted, that the name is Alicia James, the date of birth is this one right here, the gender, the license number, and the height. And if we go back to the image, we will see that actually that information is correct. I could also edit to maybe get an address and run it again. And it should be getting this address, which is here in Paris. Let's see if it actually works. And there you go. You got the address correct from the driver license. So the way you can do this is very simple. All you need is a query against Appsmith AI. And obviously you don't need a file to be uploaded to be trained. This model is already pre-trained. And what we're doing here is using the extract entities from image action. And you're passing as an input the file picker. So once we upload a file to Appsmith using the file picker, Appsmith AI is going to transform that to base 64, and that's going to be the parameter to Appsmith AI. And then we pass the input text, the input one text, which is the actual labels we're trying to extract from the image, and also some additional instructions. And by that, you have a query ready to analyze images and extract all the information that you want with minimal effort. So by that, we get to an end in terms of Appsmith AI. Today, you have seen how you can easily use OpenAI, Google Gemini, Claude, Anthropic, and the most powerful enterprise artificial intelligence tool in the market that you can start using for free today in any of the Appsmith editions. I hope you enjoyed everything we have taught you today. You are ready to embark on implementing AI in any of your Appsmith applications.